Good morning, 5th grade. So the last lesson for this week, we are going to be working with elapsed time. This lesson is actually pretty simple compared to the other lessons that we've been working with, because what we are going to be working with today is only 3 units. We're going to be working with minutes, seconds, and hours, and days. Okay, so 4 units. I misspoke. So the first thing I wanted to go over is how you can look at lapsed time. Okay, so this question says, Monica spent 3.5 hours working on her computer. If she started working at 9 o'clock a.m., what time would she stop working? So 5th grade, what you see here is they created a timeline for us here. Okay, so they started their timeline at 9 o'clock because that is when she started working, and they are looking for the time that it took her to stop working. Okay, so they jumped one hole for 1 hour to 10, another hole for 11, a third hour for 12, and then they only went a half because it's 3.5. So she ended up stopping working at 12:30. Okay, moving right along. So this next question asks, Robert's soccer team needs to be off the soccer field by 11:45 a.m. Each game is at most 1 3/4 hours long. What time should the game begin to be sure that the team finishes on time? So what I'm going to do here, 5th grade, is I'm going to cut my clock. Oops. Let's try that one more time. I'm going to cut my clock into fourths. Okay? So if we cut our clock into fourths, he is using 3/4 of their time. I know that this to this equals 15 minutes. Here to here is another 15 minutes. Here to here is another 15 minutes. Okay, so one second here. I got a little bit of technical difficulty. Here there is another 15 minutes. Okay, so what we do with those 15 is we know that 3/4 of an hour is 45 minutes. Okay, so we are going to be working backwards with this problem. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a timeline because that's easiest for me. I'm going to start from the back and I'm going to label that 11:45 because that's when they need to get off of the field. Okay, I know that he needs an hour and 3/4, so I'm going to cut it into pieces like that. So then I'm going to put 3 pieces in between here so that I can focus on what I am doing. Okay, so we have our holes are our big lines here. Our small lines are our numbers in between. So he has an hour, 1 3/4 of an hour to finish this game. So we're going to work backwards. So 1 whole hour would be 10:45. Okay, would be 10:45 for 1 whole hour working backwards. Okay, so now we have 3/4 of an hour, which is 45 minutes. So we go 1 2 3, which means we're going to be ending at 10 o'clock. Okay, another way we can do that is if we look at a clock here. Okay, see, let me erase this and we'll look at our clock that they gave us. Okay, so they have our time set here for 11:45 a.m. Okay, so it's set at 11:45. If I go back a whole hour, 1 whole hour, my clock would actually move to 10:45. Then if I go back 3/4 of that time, if I go back from 10:45 and I just go to 3/4, I know that my time would now be 10 o'clock. That's a new hour. Okay. Moving along. So this one's a little bit trickier with the way that it's worded and the way that it works. Okay. So it says, if both Red Fox and Top Hat started the podcast download at 10:05 a.m., at what time did each service complete the download? Okay, so then it says, what is the difference between these times? So we're working with Red Fox and Top Hat. I'm going to start with Red Fox. It took Red Fox 310 seconds for the download, okay? So we need to convert that to a time. So 310 divided by 60, because there are 60 seconds in a minute, okay? 60 cannot go into 33, 60 cannot go into 31, but 60 can go into 310. I'm not sure how many times, so I'm going to take a couple of guesses over here. I'm going to guess 5. Oh, that's the closest I'm going to get. So I'm going to write a 5 above that 0, okay? And that becomes 300 underneath here, okay? I do my subtraction. I have 10 left over, okay? So what I would put here is red fox. So we need to figure out what he finished at. So it took him 5 minutes, 10 seconds to finish. He started at 10:05. So what we need to do is we need to add that 5 minutes to our minutes over here. So 10:05 plus 5 more minutes gives me 10:10 and 10 seconds. Okay, so red fox took 10 is when it finished, and 10 seconds. Okay, all right, so our next one that we are working with is top hat. Top hat took a little bit longer, okay, so I'm going to erase this work here. Top hat took 1,050 seconds. So we have to divide that by 60, okay? So I know that 60 can go into 105 one time. That gives us 60. We do our subtraction. 35, bring down our 0. I'm going to do 60 times, let's do 5 again. All right, that's the closest I'm going to get. So 60 goes into 355 times. So now we have 15 on the top. 300 goes down here. I have 50 left over. So 15 minutes and 50 seconds is how long it took this person, okay? So now we go top hat. If we have 10:05 and we add 15 minutes to 10:05, it's now going to be 10:20 because 5 plus 15 equals 20. Then our seconds that we have left over is 50 seconds. The next question asks us, what's the difference between the two? Okay, so we need to find our difference between these two. So I'm looking at this and I can definitely tell that we have a couple of issues. We can't just easily subtract the way that it's set up for us right here. So I'm looking at my paper and I know I'm gonna have to put 10:20 above 10:10, and I'm gonna have to put 50 above 10. Okay, so we're actually gonna put top hat above and red fox below. Okay, so we're finding the difference between the two times at this time. So I have 40 here and 10 minutes here. So it took, the difference between the two is 10 minutes and 40 seconds. And I know that was a long process. There was a lot of steps there, but if you just work through each step, I think we did 3 or 4 steps there. If you work through each step individually and take your time, it will be a lot easier, okay? Moving on to our last one here, okay? So this one is asking us to find the start time. And I already solved this for you, okay? And I just did this really simply in my head, okay? I said, what is 7 minus 2? And in my head, I know 7 minus 2 equals 5, because that's really simple for me to figure out. I also know, 5th grade, based on a clock, a fourth of an hour is 15 minutes. So all I did to find the seconds was take 22 minus 15, and that gave me 7. And I know I have to write an hour as 07 rather than just 7 because that's how we work with an hour, okay? So 5th grade, those are some examples of what you're gonna see on today's work with the Interactive Student Edition and Personal Math Trainer. Please take your time. One thing that you need to remember is that it tracks your progress as you're working through that And if you don't click check answer, you will not get credit for that problem that you did. I'm having a couple of people who are getting 0% on this. And I'm thinking that that's because it might be because you're doing all the work, but perhaps maybe you're not clicking the check answer button on the bottom. So I don't want that to be a problem. And let me know if you have any questions or need any extra help on this today, okay? Have a great day.